Hello, lovely beings. Here we have another episode of the Human Light Bulbs podcast. And today we have Max Danylenko. Welcome, Max.
Thank you
I
so
am,
much.
I'm Janneke Hellebrekers, aka MissHellbreaker. Hellbreaker is my real surname. I'm here to help people liberate themselves emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, on all levels. I want to help people. I give healings, courses, videos, talks, podcasts, and wherever I can spread seeds of awakening and enlightenment, I am there. And I'm very happy to have you here. And maybe you want to share a short a thing about yourself.
Hi guys. Yes, so I'm honored to be joining on my. I'm honored to be joined at this podcast. This is actually only my second podcast ever, so it's really cool that my TikTok is gaining some traction and it's has an effect on people. But just to put it briefly, yes, I've only been on this awakening to your true self journey for only 5 years. I experienced my first awakening at 25. And I'm currently 30 now. So it's only been 5 years, but I've learned so much. And I guess my gift is communication. I want to talk about these vague and nuanced woo topics in the most clear human language possible. And that's what I do on my TikTok. So Max Danylenko 93 is my TikTok name. And that's just what I do. I do videos about insights and ways of liberating yourself from suffering, from human suffering, using spiritual discoveries. And I would love to I'm excited for this conversation. I'm excited to see what kind of insights we discover together. And there is nothing more beautiful than awakening. All it is the most natural thing you can do, just discovering what you really are. Because if there's constant suffering in humanity, clearly we know deep inside there's something wrong. So it's just about waking up to the truth. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I found you on TikTok and I was immediately very inspired because like you said, like you only had like awakening maybe 5 years ago, but like
Yeah.
how you share and what you share is really, really profound. So it really inspired me, and I had awakening like I think 15 years ago or something, and
Wow.
I think you keep awakening like new every time there's new insights and new realizations, like
Yeah,
deeper
there's no limit. It's really that infinite. You can never really be officially awake. You can just get closer and closer. But that's the beauty of it. It's each awakening feels super complete. Like I got everything, I'm done, it's over, but it's never over. It can always get more complete. So for those of you who are watching who think you are awake, keep exploring, because it only goes deeper.
And how did it started? Was it a gradual awakening or was it like an instant one that you had?
Well, lucky enough, it was a spontaneous awakening. I had no intention of studying spirituality. I mean, especially religion. I was a complete, I guess, animosity or, well, you can say at the time, hate, is a strong word, but, as an atheist, being an atheist until I was 25, I had a very strong, hate towards religion or anything mystical because I thought everything could be explained scientifically, chemicals in the brain creating an experience, nothing more interesting than that. With me, I think I got lucky because the universe blessed me with a difficult relationship. Sometimes you have to have an intimate relationship with somebody that is very, very difficult. In order to wake up. And I believe it's one of the fastest ways to wake up. When you relate with somebody and you have issues with them and you discover all of the negativity, all the things that bother you, all the things that create pain in your life, you realize what you are. So basically, if you're with somebody who's very, stuck in their darkness, they might tell you what you are not. And when you hear what you are not, many times you are destined to discover what you are. So for any of you who are in a difficult relationship with somebody, consider that a blessing because it could lead to something beautiful. And that's what happened to me. So, I was in a difficult relationship, and I guess all that energy that I was using for fighting or resisting kind of bottled up in my body. I was reading this book. I have it right here. I don't have, it's not too far. I don't know if this is backwards, but it's basically say "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. It's a self-help book. And I had a spontaneous awakening from one sentence, and I'll read that to you. It only took one sentence. It was this: "Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, 'You owe me.' Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky." So this sentence gave me a spontaneous awakening. It showed me that even in our solar system, even the sun itself is a representation of unconditional love in our universe. And when I realized that love goes beyond the human, I realized it was infinite, and I realized that's what we are. And when I realized I can't lose anything, even people, I realized that there is no risk to living this life. All that energy that we use for anxiety can be used for creativity and love. And in that moment, I understood everything. I understood the religions. I understood why they were the way they were. Everything made sense. Once you understand that the human body is just a vehicle for love, you can understand pretty much anything in human history, anything about cosmology or whatever you're interested in. So in this moment, the downloads came, the information came, and I kept, reading more spiritual books, and I'm still learning to this day. So my gift is communication, and just how Steve Jobs simplified the personal computer, I want to simplify spirituality for people, and that's the goal of my TikTok. So that's how it happened. It was completely spontaneous.
Oh wow. And I think a bit similar. Like I want to use the spiritual information to learn about this reality and to apply it into this reality and make it easier for yourself to live, to use it, but
Exactly.
not to go away from it, but really be here. Really be here. And like that's why we're here, to embody that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It becomes practical. At first, it's theory, but eventually it becomes practical because your whole body has to wake up. Your emotions have to wake up. Everything has to wake up. So absolutely, theory is the first phase, and then eventually the theory has to be integrated, and you have to actually practice with examples in your life. If you're in a situation where you're frustrated, maybe you're waiting in line somewhere, you're impatient, you practice being in your seat of awareness, because this piece is available to you at all times, and that's where it becomes practical.
Yeah, and how are you also practically also helping people?
Yeah, so practically what I do with people for them to feel better right away is they work with me one-on-one, and I just do a breathing session with them. So essentially what you do is you just lay down on your back comfortably, and you breathe very, very deep for a very long time. It's similar to the Wim Hof method you've probably heard, but what I do is a really long session, compared to just a little short round of 3 minutes. It's 20 minutes of pure breathing. So it's just like 200 to 300 breaths. You're breathing really deeply, and then you're relaxing, deeply relaxing. At the end, you empty your lungs, so no air in the lungs. You hold that for as long as you can, and then take a big breath for 15 seconds. In this state, it's almost like a psychedelic state. The oxygen starts to connect things in your mind and your body, and I start to give a guided hypnosis or a guided meditation. You can call it both ways. And basically what I do is just naturally through this breathing, they change their state. It's a different state of consciousness. In this altered state of consciousness, I give them a meditation that helps with limiting beliefs or helps them stay in the moment. So I combine two healing modalities. I combine hypnotherapy with breath work. And that's how I help people to learn to be in the now, or to be comfortable in the now. And I believe that, it's like a practical way. So it's my own version. There's breathwork exists already and hypnotherapy exists already, but I just combine them. So that's the way I do it for people.
Yeah, but it's also a beautiful way, because breathwork really brings you in an altered state of consciousness, and then
Yes.
if you then apply the other, it's also puts it in their bodies, so it really can like shift a lot. So that's really a beautiful way, because I'm also very much like about like finding natural ways to
Yeah.
be in that state. So this is a really beautiful way that you found. So I'm happy that you were sharing that. So anybody, I will put the links underneath. So
Thank you.
you can find the TikTok, and you can find his website for like what he's doing. And so like, because like people, the state in the world, it's like it gets, yeah, it's like what you said also, there's so much suffering, so much chaos, and
Yes.
how to bring people can bring themselves back to themselves, and
Yes.
yeah,
And the
like
suffering is absolutely natural and necessary. We think there's something wrong with the world, but even the way it is, there's nothing wrong with the world. I know that's a radical thing to say, but even with the horrible suffering that's happening, it's absolutely perfect, because with enough suffering, something in the soul says, this way of trying to be happy isn't working. So humanity has to suffer so much that it will realize, okay, there has to be something else. And when the things we talk about become mainstream, they actually become cool, amongst all people, that's when we will survive. So what's so interesting about this whole awakening thing is it's just not some new way to live life or some leisurely way to be comfortable in your life. No, it goes deeper than that. Like Eckhart Tolle says, our survival depends on it. So the survival of humanity completely depends on our awakening as a species. So because otherwise the suffering will escalate so much that it will lead to annihilation, where nuclear bombs are something that are just pointed at each other at all times. And we might even, I don't think it will happen, but the possibility of destroying ourselves completely, it could be a result of not waking up. So that's how critical it is to wake up. Our survival as a species, I believe, completely depends on that.
yeah. And do you, and we see like I feel also there's more and more people waking up. Do you like, I feel like it's going to a tipping point at one point,
Yeah, like an acceleration. Yeah,
like a
absolutely. Because
massive
of because of
awakening.
the internet. Yeah, it accelerates the. I mean, think about it. Our consciousness naturally wants to unite, and what faster way for consciousness to unite than things like TikTok or YouTube? It's an efficient way for thoughts to come together. So unity and division is how the universe works. Division and unity. So the internet is just, it's not just some technology. The internet is just a natural progression of consciousness. And the internet will accelerate the awakening of humanity faster than regular person to person language, like, regular word of mouth. So I believe that younger and younger people, I've had some clients that are, 19 years old, and they already know more than me. They already read all the spiritual books, Tao Te Ching, all that. And it's interesting because young people are suffering, right? A lot of teenagers have psychological issues that they're going through, and they're looking at TikTok, they're looking at all these things, and they're finding that spirituality or even simple non-duality is helping them, just realizing oneness. And when I'm working with them, I'm like, wow, I wish I was 19 years old and discovering this. So I think people are getting younger, discovering this rather younger and younger, and it's going to reach a certain peak where so many people will be talking about this that it will reach a new level of science where even quantum physics will start to merge with non-duality, where we realize, okay, particles, why are particles able to be in two places at once? Maybe there's just one particle for everything. So I think in the future, non-duality and quantum physics and science are just going to come together, and it'll just be this one uniform teaching. in the future. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and it's also beautiful, like on all these platforms, like more conscious creators sharing, and that is, we learn from each other, and that is like also the future. Like we, like what another person knows is for another person like really big puzzle piece. Like just sharing, like what you said, like one sentence or like your insight can be huge revelation for someone else. It can really change people's lives just in an instant. And that
Yeah,
is
it only takes a few words. Like I said, in this book, one sentence, just talking about the sun. It's like, duh. Yeah, the sun is just it's just completely providing. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the beautiful thing about awakening. It can be spontaneous, and it doesn't take much to awaken somebody. Really doesn't.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful what you're doing. And I also saw one video of you that I also was really was really profound for me. It's like you said, like you're the awareness behind the doing, and it's happening anyway. And all the only suffering you do is like the labels you put on there.
Absolutely.
Maybe you can
Absolutely.
also like explain it a bit more how you.
Sure, yeah. So the self is something that we believe is real. And when we believe the self is real, we, as this our body is essentially a surviving, it's designed to try to survive. And that's what the ego is. It's a survival mechanism, which is necessary to interact with others. That's why there even are others, is because of this ego thing. But what's interesting about the self is it only exists during a collection of thoughts about the self. When that is not happening, a self is not being experienced. If you're at the park, right, the park is happening. You're not happening because you're not experiencing this, you're experiencing that. So when you realize that the self is a collection of thoughts, you realize, oh, all suffering can only be as a result of thinking. Because what's happening is we're creating a separation. We're thinking about something. We're thinking about a self and how the self relates. Like the self, oh, I don't like this. This isn't good for the self. And then the emotion is a negative one, and that creates suffering. So if you feel pain, you think that's bad and you suffer. But if you look at it in an objective way, like let's say you feel pain and you say, oh, that's interesting. That's happening right now. It's not really connected to suffering, because you could be in a negative life situation and you can take suffering. Let's say you're homeless, right? You're outside, you don't have a house. The idea of that equals suffering in your thoughts. Like, I should have a home, I should be successful. And because I don't, it doesn't preserve my ego very well, so I suffer. But what's really happening is that there's fresh air and you're sitting outside. So when the emotions come from actuality, there isn't suffering, because if you're sitting comfortably and nobody's physically hurting you, then you can get all your emotions from the five senses, right? We have five senses to experience the world, and we can get our emotions from that. But most people get their emotions from here, from a story. So awakening is about getting your emotions from the five senses instead of a idea or story about reality. So hopefully that answers that a little bit.
And I think also there's a difference in thoughts. Like you
Yeah.
have those monkey thoughts that you like the loop, and they make you think and they make you like anxiety or stress. But you have like when you calm the mind a bit more, then you have more creative thoughts.
Yes,
Yes,
because
it's different.
you're giving a room for the natural creativity of the universe to come in. When you have survival thoughts or stressful thoughts, you're just thinking about your own survival. The heart needs to feel safe before it's ready to create. And this is something I'm quoting from Dr. Joe Dispenza, which I'm sure a lot of listeners know about. But once you are, that's why when you're in the shower or in a jacuzzi or something, a lot of creative ideas come because you're relaxed. But if you can be always relaxed, the practicality is now you have the creativity to solve the problems, to make your life better. You know, it's not the pressure or the fear that's going to make you survive. It's actually the relaxation into the now. So that's the difference between thoughts and, you know, letting that space for creativity.
And that's the same as with the pyramid of Maslow,
Right.
where like
Hierarchy of needs, right.
yeah. First you need you have all your needs met, and then you go higher on to self-realization and to like you first need all those things, the basics in place.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are still in flight fight mode, like survival mode.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what you say. If they're still in not feeling safe fully, they
Yeah.
can't climb up that ladder. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why spirituality isn't for everybody at this time necessarily. It's about starting with basic self-help, getting your survival needs met. So some people, what happens, there's actually a negative of spirituality. It's called spiritual bypassing. If somebody is having issues with finances and they go straight to spirituality, they might say, well, we're all one, we're going to die anyway. I don't need to earn money. I don't need to do anything. And then they might suffer because of that, because they didn't meet their survival needs. So sometimes it's helpful to get the basics, just basic self-help books of believing in yourself and all that, and getting your survival needs, and then you go for the spiritual stuff. Because that's another trap, is people that don't have anything and they go straight to spirituality, but they skipped the basic, you know, survival component, which you need to go through so that you have the comfort of exploring spirituality. So yeah, there's a lot of traps. There's also a spiritual ego that can happen. You know, you become spiritual and you see other people who are asleep and you think you're better. You think you're better than everybody. And that's not true. You know, everyone's equally, you know, exploring this path. And if you truly believe you're one, how could you possibly say you're better than anybody else? So yeah, there are there's a lot of traps. Spirituality, I have to say, can be dangerous, and everyone should know that. You know, there's a spiritual psychosis that can happen. You might think that there's no reason to care about this world and you just want to go into the other world. But the reality is there's a reason why you're here. So it's to exist, and you can only exist if there's the possibility of suffering, the possibility of others. So yeah, it's important to be very careful when entering this knowledge, because the ego can take it and use it in a negative way. So that can happen as well.
Thank you. Good explanation of that, because you don't want to have putting people on a pedestal, and then you're still doing that also with spiritual, like they're putting gurus and it's like it's about like empowering each other.
Yeah, becoming your own guru. You know, the best guru in the world, the best thing they can do is to turn you into your own guru. If they say, follow me forever, well, then it becomes another hierarchy, another, you know, another system, kind of like religion, which is, you know, we can go in depth into narcissism, but I have a kind of a controversial theory that, you know, religion is when narcissism mixes with spirituality. And it creates this selfish kind of like, oh, I'm the Pope, and there should be a Pope, like this person that's so special. And obviously, you know, you could probably get more insights than the Pope any day with like a couple of mushrooms. You know what I mean? So obviously that doesn't work either. But yeah, like you said, that's how religion gets formed. And you know, you shouldn't put any teacher on a pedestal, because you could always have better insights than that teacher. That teacher is just opening the door for you and pointing.
And that is also why it's so good to learn from each other, because then you find your own truth. Because if you're like, okay, I resonate with this, but not with this, and then you find your own truth in it, and that is why we're all different.
Absolutely.
But it's funny what you said about the Pope. I sometimes I have real talks as well with different topics, and one topic was like when you are holier than the Pope.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You can be even holier than Jesus, and I know that sounds crazy too, but he just wanted to show you what you can do. He never said to follow him. He just said, if I can, you can. I think that's what Jesus wanted, in my intuition. So people should have a more universal kind of understanding of these things, for sure.
Yeah, and that is the Christ consciousness, like having so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
compassion for people and for whole humanity. Like
yes.
you want to like help well, like people, the suffering of the people, and you want to help them. But it's also like, yeah, it's not but I really feel like a lot of times if they knew certain knowledge, like what you said, just one simple sentence and they find out, and then, but I really feel like a lot of they find it anyway. Like if you want to have an end of the suffering, if you want to learn, if you want to do something about it, it will come. The universe will show you the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And do you think that is because like you have that intention, or you have to put that out there, or like or the universe does it anyway? Like how do you think that manifests, or like how is that co-creation working?
Well, I think everybody is on the path already. You know, everybody is destined to awaken. And the beautiful thing about this life being temporary is you're guaranteed perfection. You're guaranteed the truth at the end of this life. Just like at the end of a dream, no matter what happens in the dream, when you sleep, you wake up and you realize, like Bashar says, this is what I am. This is what I am. So at the end of this life, you wake up and you say, oh, this is what I am. So it almost doesn't even matter what happens in your life. You know, in a sense, you can say that this perfect kind of infinite consciousness has nothing better to do. It has all the time in the world. So obviously it's going to explore the good and the bad. It's curious. Well, how can I see myself if I'm a starving child in some poor country, and then I eventually live this crazy life, and then I merge with the creator? So it's just interested, like, how can I share myself with an infinite number of beings? And the way that it does this is by being willing to suffer. That's actually the interesting thing about others, because others are also an illusion. You know, people say we are one, we are one. Well, by definition, you are lonely. If you are one, you are lonely because you're alone. And the only way to share that is to imagine others like you and me. But there's a little bit of a downside. We might argue, right? Like you and me might not agree on something. You and me might fight, and that can create suffering. And the Christ-like nature of being is that it's willing to suffer because of how much it wants to share itself. So it's willing to pay that price. So I think that might show a little bit of why suffering exists as well. It's the price to create an other.
I didn't got that fully.
Okay.
Maybe you can say it.
Okay, so you are other, right? You
Yeah.
are something that's not one right now, because I think I'm one, but you're one too. So you are somebody else, right? If I didn't want to suffer, if I wanted to be one, right? You wouldn't exist, and I would just be one. I would just be God or infinity or the universe, whatever you call it, right? So it's just one. No suffering, because it's perfect. It's just one. It's just nothingness or infinity. It's one, right? But there's a problem. Who are you going to tell? There's nobody there. There's just one thing. So when it creates the division, right? Now there's possibility of suffering. So the suffering is the price to create more of itself. And it's happy to do that because at least it can share itself. It can share being God.
You learn
Right.
from the suffering.
You learn from it, but you also create the division to not just be one. Because if the universe is one, it's truly lonely, right? Like imagine you're this amazing thing, but there's nobody here to tell. You can't tell anybody. There's nobody here. Like, hello, like I'm God, like it's amazing, but nobody's here. So it has to limit itself, create the division, and now, ooh, I can tell you that I'm God, and now you're over there telling me about your experiences. But in between that, there can be suffering. So that's kind of the price it pays to create other beings. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, that's why we came here in this physicality to experience all of that.
Exactly.
And instead of being one and it's all good and it's all light and love and then you
Yeah,
come here and
exactly.
you're like, oh, what is this? What
Yeah,
is this?
exactly.
I don't want to know what it is. But on the other side, even if you are realize like you feel that love and then suddenly you also have like, oh, this is not love, but you have to go through it to so you experience that it is love, but in a different way. It's like a different like to experience that, to wake up yourself even more.
Exactly. You see these differences,
Mhm.
and at the very end, you realize, well, I'm broken apart to be many, and that's why there is conflict with these little pieces. But then you find that these pieces are actually the same, and that's what's happening with humanity. Humanity is realizing we do have a lot of surface level differences, but at our core, we're the same, right? We have very similar fears and desires, and this is simple. We all want love, and we all are afraid of non-existence or something bad happening, right? So we're afraid of termination, of not existing anymore. We're afraid of death. I mean, all fears kind of go back to death. If you're afraid of being homeless or without a home, that's connected to death in a way. You're afraid of death. So if we're all we all are interested in love and we're all afraid of death, then that's what unites us. That's what makes us so similar. And that's what's happening with humanity right now, is this acceleration of seeing this similarity with each other. And that's all it goes back. That's really what the truth goes back to: oneness. You know, it all goes back to the one dreaming that it's many. You could say it that way.
Yeah, beautiful. And I really resonate with a lot of things that you say. So it's really beautiful um and yeah, and I wanted to ask you, what is your like your because I really also think like we're at one point we're going tipping point, like everybody is like awakening, like and then more and more people, and that you said also more younger people are now also awakening. And what would be your message if you could be like saying a message for humanity? What would be your message?
Oh, that's a good one. There's so many messages, but I'll try to pick the most simple one. I'll just say it this way. For anyone that's watching, in your direct experience, notice how every moment is peaceful until you add chaos to it with your mind, just with your mind. You know, like if you were look at this room, like let's say this is your room, right? This is your room. You're just sitting in a room. What does this room demand of you? What is it asking you to think about? Nothing, right? Being. So when in doubt, sit in silence, do breathing, research psychedelics because they change lives and they help with anxiety and depression and all these things that people suffer with. But as Ram Dass said, be here now. You know, that's the best message I can give. Just be here now.
Mm, thank you, thank you. And but that's also what you said, like about psychedelics. They bring you there for a short while, but you want to be there for a long time. But they can
Yeah,
help you to reach that moment. But you want like, but you want to. For me, it felt
right.
like it's like a roadmap how to get there, like as
Yeah.
much as possible in
Yeah,
everyday
you'll
life.
still go back to the ego. You'll still go back to the fears and maybe, you know, the things you don't like about yourself. So one trip is not really going to do anything. It's probably better just to take very small amounts little by little, and just take notes, learn from it. And when you're ready for the bigger trips, just be with good people, be in a safe place, go to a special retreat, do your research, but they will guide you, as long as you listen to what they say, you will be safe. Like Terence McKenna said, that they can only make you think that they can kill you or hurt you, but that's all also for your own good. So
Yeah, and to
don't
deal
be
with
afraid. Don't be afraid to
your
try
fears.
everything. Everything's worth it trying.
Yeah, and also it comes in your life in the right time when
Yeah,
you're ready
exactly.
for it. Like
Yeah, the opportunity will
and
come.
trust that also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
trust that also if you are there to experience that, it will come.
Yeah, and if you've never meditated or done breath work, don't go straight for the psychedelics. At least have a couple months of being comfortable with meditation, being comfortable with breathing. Do the stuff you can already do with your body, and when you feel ready, then go for the plant medicines, which are designed to help you. So yeah, just don't treat it as another drug or another addiction, because all it's going to do is it's going to make you rely on it. Start with all the stuff that's available to you, like meditation and breath work. If you haven't yet, that's where you have to start at the very least, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I really agree with that as well. I was really grateful that I did a long time yoga, meditation, breath work
Yeah, yeah,
before ever doing psychedelic, because otherwise I would
yeah.
not have been so balanced and aligned and
Yeah, and it can be too
grounded
scary
during the
too. Like
experience.
you might have a bad experience and then you might not want to do it again, and you might look at it in a negative way. So yeah, the people have bad trips and they think that that's what they are. They just make you dissociate or go crazy. So yeah, at least start with the basics of spirituality: yoga, meditation, breath work, whatever you need to do. And then reality will give you an opportunity. So you might meet the right person that will tell you about it. You might hear about it. So, trust that the universe is in communication with you, and it'll present those things to you at the right time.
Yeah, and also like trust that it also comes with me also all the time, like deeper layers of trust that this universe there's some like intrinsic intelligence behind it,
Yeah,
and that we can
absolutely.
trust that whatever we need to experience, we will experience.
Yeah, because all those little mistakes, all those little awkward moments with people, every messy moment in your life led you to watching this, for example, led you to this perfect moment. So how can you not trust? You know, that's where the trust comes from,
Oh,
when you realize that all that horribleness brings you here. So it was all important, all of it.
yeah, and it's all like experiences of your life also. They all shape you as you are right now. So this is all a learning experience, this whole life. So it's really interesting. Once you're on that path of spiritual growth and awakening, it's a really, really and it gets more and more interesting. I feel like your reality.
Yeah, yeah, it's infinitely interesting. And then you relate to things differently after your awakening. Before, when you were just petting your cat or your pet or anything, you might just look at it as another animal. But now you see yourself in your pet. Your pet loves you just like you're able to love your cat or your dog or whatever. So now every little thing in reality becomes interesting. Like you might be eating your favorite food, and then you just have this insight, oh, like I'm eating this inside of my own dream. Like I'm just imagining this. There's a lot of really juicy and interesting ways to relate to very basic human things. So at the very least, it will make you not separate from the dream, like, oh, it's just a dream, but actually more connected, more in the moment, more alive. People think the spiritual people are just in a cloud somewhere. No, they're actually more here than the regular people, if you like to call it that way, because now you know how to relate to it. You live from the heart. You live from this self that wants to experience love. Why do you think we have eyes and a mouth and all that? To see loving things, to taste lovingly, prepared food, to feel things that feel not, you know what I mean? Like, this is a vehicle for love. That's how the human body is designed. That's why we have hands and a body. It's a way to experience love. And when you see that, you realize why it's the way it is. So there you go.
Mm. Wow, so many golden nuggets, so much beautiful words and explanations. I want to thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you so much.
And I would highly recommend people to watch your videos on the TikTok. And
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah, and everybody here, please keep following this podcast. You seem to have a good taste for bringing guests in. If you're interested in what I'm saying, that says a lot about you. So everybody, tune in for the next podcast. I'm sure you'll get more and more interesting teachers. And whoever's watching, you can be a teacher. Open your own TikTok and just share your journey, and people want to hear it. People are hungry for this stuff, so don't be afraid to share.
Yes, and that is also a really good one too, because you have to find your own truths, and by sharing you find your own truths, by sharing your own realization, sharing your own insights, and then you also help others with that as well. So that is
Yes.
something that is really like you feel inspired inside, and then
Yes.
you inspire others, and that is a really nice feeling to have
Yes.
also, to be
Absolutely.
inspired.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that is also like in spirit. We are in spirit, we're inspired, and then that is a way of living.
Yeah. And every word has little secrets in it, like the word enlightenment. It just means to lighten up. You just become lighter. You can look at it like that too.
Yeah, and I like to be lighter with lighter food.
Yeah.
I share a lot about that as well. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you very much, and thank you
Thank you
everybody
so
for
much.
watching. And see and like and subscribe for more information and more like great podcasts and more amazing people. And thank you so much, Max, for sharing your light and your inspiration into this world and helping others. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, have a great week and lifetime if you can.
Bye
All right.
bye, people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.